Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Breaking Even with Al Paton on your official SuperCoach AFL podcast feed. This is the show where we answer your questions and there are plenty of them this week, one of probably the biggest trading weeks in SuperCoach for the season with lots of players about to change in value, lots of bubble boys to talk about, and joining me is Patch. Welcome back.
Hello, delighted to be here. Very happy to be back on Breaking Even with Al Paton, with our good friend Al Paton.
Well, thank you very much. And Tim Michell is also with us for the first time in a little while, but a huge week, Tim, on the trading front and also some juicy DPP numbers, which had your name next to them, which I know is something you're all over.
Yeah, lots happening, Al. So we'll see in a couple of weeks' time some DPP changes, which I'm really looking forward to, but hoping you guys can help me out because I'm trying to fit about 12 players into 3 trades this week. I'd love if there was a super boost or something, Al, where we could burn all our boosts at once because I think I'd probably do it this week trying to get everyone in.
Yeah, there's plenty to discuss and, prioritise is a big thing, which I know reading through some of the questions and there's been heaps come in already is something that people are asking about. So we'll try and answer those. Obviously, as I say, this is your show, so get those questions in, leave a comment, like, subscribe, all those great things on your podcast apps, or if you're watching on Code Sports YouTube, of course. And another reminder that SuperCoach Plus, the free trial, which everybody has enjoyed in the first few rounds of the season, has I think it might have already just expired. So if you aren't a SuperCoach Plus subscriber, you're not going to be able to see the break-evens, the price projections, live scores on the weekend, all those great features. So it's $29.95 for a 12-month subscription. Just the best money you'll spend in SuperCoach this year, I reckon. Just taught my kid what a break-even was, and now he's lost break-even access. So we'll have to. I think we'll have to sign up.
Yeah, it's a $30 investment to earn $50,000. So you'd be doing pretty well out of it.
Yeah, definitely recommend people check that out. Obviously, and you get Optimize and Trade Assist and all those features as well. But we'll get into the questions shortly. But the first order of business, as it is every week on the show, is the HBF Injury Report. Every SuperCoach knows managing injuries is the key to success. This is the Injury Report, proudly brought to you by HBF, your health dream team. Not a huge list of injuries this week, but some very interesting names on there. I'll kick us off with a couple down at the Cats, famously forthcoming in their information about how players are tracking with injuries and fitness. So Tom Stewart went down with a knee injury on the weekend. Just the 9 points if you had him, that was a bit of a disaster, and we thought he was going to miss a while, but now it turns out maybe he could play this week. He's down as a test. So if you were trading him out, you'd probably reverse that and, wait and see how he comes up for the weekend. But the other one, of course, we're watching very closely is Bailey Smith, who was a late out last week, caught a lot of people out, lots of reverse trades happening, and now he's down as a test as well. I think the Cats play Saturday night, so we're probably going to have to wait until, an hour before the game to really know what they're doing, don't we?
Yep. He could be sub. Who knows? Who knows what they're doing?
I don't know why you'd risk. Like, it's obvious to say as a non-owner, but I don't know why you'd risk him. What are they talking? 60 mils of rain up in Brisbane, and like why you would take him up there as well potentially if there was any risk. But who knows? He played so well in round one that they'd be keen to get him back in there as soon as they can.
Yeah, you'd think so, but I guess it's a wait and see.
And the other one that's very relevant to SuperCoach that came through earlier in the week is Elijah Sardis has a broken finger, broken in the warm-up, I believe, and still played and had 25 touches, but now he's going to miss a couple of weeks, including Essendon's bye. So we'll get to that a bit later on, people asking, do you hang on to him? Do we trade him? So, that's another one that we have to think about on top of all the other issues this week.
Absolutely. Another couple, Adam Treloar is not in many teams, but if you've got a Riley Sanders or one of the other Bulldogs mids, Joel Frazier, perhaps, he's been set back by another month with his calf injury, which is no good. And if you've got Connor McDonald in draft sides, which 85% of leagues have him picked in, he's going to be out for 2 to 3 weeks as well.
Good news up at the Gold Coast Sun. Sam Flanders is back. Almost a forgotten man.
Yeah, he is. But Sexy Flanders is back.
Most expensive defender, or very close to, after how good he was for us last year. So he's going to be back, and geez, he might be a nice pod. We're talking about upgrade season, not too far away, with Sam Flanders playing his first game of the year. So we're keen to see how he goes after. Well, he played back, but now they've got Daniel Rioli and John Noble.
Yeah,
so
that's it.
Who knows what his role is going to be as well. And GWS, they're going to welcome back up to 7 players this week. Kieran Briggs is one that I'm watching pretty closely after he scored 5 before he got concussed. Jesse Hogan's back. Jake Stringer's meant to be debuting. And then Joe Fonte, Toby McMullen, Jake Riccardi, and Harvey Thomas, less Supercoach relevant. But they might push out a James Leake type.
Or a Connor Stone.
Which is where the relevance comes in. So plenty of eyes on what Adam Kingsley does at selection this week.
Yeah, I'd be pretty nervous if I was James Leake this week. That's a wrap on this week's injury report. Thanks to HBF. Make the smart move. Join HBF, your health dream team. Now, we've got a couple of other little segments that we debuted last week, and I think they went all right. So we'll have another crack this week. And the first one is Fallen Premo Watch. So we're looking for some of these higher-priced guys who are potentially going to be a bit cheaper in a few weeks' time. And at the top of the list, we've got Luke Ryan, who's had a pretty quiet start to the year. Boy, we know last year he absolutely flew out of the blocks, was averaging about 150 at this stage. But, he hasn't done a lot. So right up at the 628K mark, he's got a break-even of 192 this week, which is the highest in the comp, projected to lose about 50 grand. So, Tim, is he one you would be keeping an eye on in a few weeks when we start looking for those upgrades? And, I mean, if you started him, what are we doing?
I'd be tempted to jump off. That's a massive break even. But it really depends what you can do with his value. Like if you could turn that 628K into Bailey Dale, make 100K, and then use that to upgrade your side elsewhere, great. But I was trying to pinpoint some of the areas where he's dropped off, Al. So he's had 11 kick-ins in the first 2 rounds, which is slightly down on the average from last year. I think he was averaging about 8 a week. So, but that doesn't necessarily explain scores of 60 and 90 that he's had so far. Disposals down by 4 and marks are down by 3. But I just wonder, Patch, whether it's that Jordan Clark's just taken over as the main man now. Jordan Clark's looks so good in the first couple of weeks, and there's only so much ball that the Fremantle defence can win. So maybe it's just that Clark has stepped up and taken his game to the next level.
Yeah, possibly. And there's also the fact that, maybe he's playing more of a defensive role. He has to be accountable. Yeah. Like on the weekend, I can't remember who he was following around, but he was actually
played on someone.
He played on someone for at least half of that game, which I was watching out of the corner of my eye.
Wasn't marking grass like normal. So 4 tons in his last 13 games now, Luke Ryan. We know he flew out of the blocks last year, averaged 129 to round 12. Then the bye came, and then he averaged 102, which is still great, 102 from round 14 onwards, but sort of well below those lofty standards that he set. So, only 4 tons in 13 games is a bit of a worry.
So, definitely a watch. Now, Nick Dacos is the other one that we are obviously keeping a very close eye on. A lot of us decided not to pick him at the start of the year after a poor opening round and maybe some injury questions. Then he had his first sort of bounce-back game last week. So good. He has dropped a little bit of value. He's down to just over 600K, but he's got a break-even of 115 in his next game. So obviously Collingwood don't play this week.
On the run sheet, it's got a break-even of 1,115. That's a decent price drop.
I'll pick him up for 119K in a few weeks.
It's one thing to say we'll just pass on him and get him cheaper, but then actually making it happen is another thing. So we've got a question here from Anthony saying, Dacos has a bye this week, then he's got Carlton, Sydney the following rounds. Do we wait until after we think he'll probably get tagged by James Jordan in that Sydney game? Is that the time we target it, or he's worried that he loves playing Carlton, Nick Dacos? So would that make you nervous?
Who doesn't at this stage?
The way the Blues are going.
I think we'll talk about structure a bit more later as well, but I think at this stage I'm not looking to upgrade the midfield just yet. Yeah. So he will be if that's mid-season buys later down the track, I'm not looking to target a Nick Dacos at this stage.
Yeah, I think that's right. It'll probably come into play. We'll get through the next couple of rounds once, this is all about resetting things. And then we'll look at, where we want to upgrade. And I think Abdul, the Skodfather's got a column that's on all the platforms now and on the news tab on the Supercoach side where he talks about, really trying to concentrate on thinking about after the buys, after best 18 rounds, and where are your rookies going to be on field. And you want them in the midfield because that's where they're actually scoring all right. And prioritise getting those defensive rookies, especially, and forward rookies off the ground. So like you say, sort of trying to aim for another big midfielder is probably not necessarily where we want to go.
No, I think most people this week, and we'll get into trade targets, but are probably going the other way and looking at cheapies to try and squeeze in this week with Xavier Lindsay being the obvious one on the bubble. So I just think you've got to hold off until after James Jordan. Like we saw, apart from, what was it, a 5 or 10 minute burst really towards the end of that game when it was close, when Caleb Sarong scored about 50 of his 98 points. It looked like it was going to be another James Jordan scalp over there in the West. So, I'd be pretty keen to hold off, see what happens. And if Nick Dacos scores well in that Sydney game, then by all means, he's probably still going to be around 600K. That's when you can start making your plans for how to get him in. But the way that James Jordan's been going and shutting down some of the best players in the comp, wouldn't surprise you if Nick put up a score below 100, and then you might be able to get him for 550K around that sort of mid-year buy time. Yeah,
that'd be good. And no little bonus this week. No James Jordan tag, I just realised. So that's nice. With Swans,
we're free.
On the
free.
No, we just got to think about Toby
Bedford's back. Yeah, that's the worry.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, we'll probably get to him shortly. A couple of the other names that I just made note of that have these very high break-evens. Harry Sheezel's been a bit underwhelming to start the year, especially when you put the captaincy on him like I did last weekend. So BA of 184. So he's that's Stuart. It's 170. Yeah, he was full forward at times.
Did you say he's played 0% defence this year?
Yeah, that's right. So we'll talk about some of those DPP stats. So he's listed as a defender in SuperCoach. He spent about 60% of time in the midfield and 40% forward. So 0% in defence.
Which is where you score all your points at North Melbourne.
Well, yeah, the forward line at the moment, exactly.
Traditionally the back line.
Yeah, but it's a new team down there. Tom Stewart, well, I put him down when I thought he might miss some games, but he does have a very high break even, 184, given that obviously very low score last week. So he's one whose price will come down. Seems to happen every year with him. Something weird happens at the start of the year. Isaac Heaney's got a break even of 155. And there's a question to Jimmy asking, is a corrective trade of Gawn to Cherry needed, with Gawn having a BE of 180 following that... Cherry clearly won that head-to-head battle on the weekend, and I know, Tim, you were at one stage, Gawn was definitely going out of your team.
Which wasn't.
Well, so you can't go from one to the other, but what are your thoughts on Gawn?
Well, I don't know. As you guys knew, when I was watching that matchup, I'm like, by halftime, I thought Max Gawn's going out of my side. I'm going to cash him in, and I'm going to make use of his value by getting Bailey Dale in before he goes up, and by getting Connor Rosie in before he goes up, and getting Jordan Dawson and all these hot players that I think a lot of us went to sort of that 400 to 450K bracket and thought that was where the value is. But interestingly, this year, it looks like it's more in sort of that 500 to 550K bracket. So if you're cutting Max Gawn in half and trying to use his value to get Bailey Dale, I can understand it. But the reason that I have gravitated towards holding is after Jared Witts this week, which I think is a pretty tough matchup, and maybe he scores 110, 120 this week. He gets one of Sam DeConning and Reece Stanley. He gets Nick Bryan. He gets the Freo guys, and Freo gave up 110 points to Sam DeConning in round one. The Tigers, he always scores about 180 against your guys, Al. And then he's got West Coast, who I reckon I could probably score ruck points against West Coast. So his run after that is really good, and I don't think he's like touch wood. He's going to get that far below 600K. So I think the smart move is going to be to hold. Would I trade him to Tristan Cherry, though? Probably. Tristan Cherry's the big dog now.
Yeah.
I saw a good tweet that said, people are saying Tristan Cherry's got this hard run and he's got all these dangerous players coming up, but he is the danger now.
Yeah,
he is the big dog in SuperCoach.
Yeah. Yeah, set and forget. Say it with me, folks. Just don't tinker with your ruck. But anyway, I can see why you'd want to.
I've got Gawn at flex. That's the only reason I considered splitting him, because... Yeah,
well, that's not your ruck, so tinker your heart to content, Tim. That's the loophole.
I wouldn't be... The only thing that maybe you would trade Gawn is, I think, and Chloe Williams, who normally sits in this seat, probably I think is thinking along similar lines, that we might only be a few weeks away from seeing Tom DeConning and Mark Pitney in the same team. And then you might be able to go Gawn out this week, he bottoms out at under 600K, and then you trade Tom DeConning back to Gawn, and you end up with Gawn and Cherry. That's not
very set and forget of you, Tim. It's
not sit and forget, but... You've got to think about what might happen if Tom DeConning and Mark Pitney start playing in the same team in a few weeks.
Time for some quick rookie roulette. Trying to get the best rookie scores on the field and into our best 18s, obviously, is what we're trying to do in a bye round. Some of the names we'll be looking at this week. Patch, would you be starting Levi Ashcroft or Xavier Lindsay?
Xavier Lindsay, based on form. In the wet as well. I don't know how Levi is going to go in the wet. I don't know. I just like the cut of Xavier Lindsay's jib, and I just think he's neat.
He's been good. That's all there is to it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat, Lindsay. I think he's averaging 6 tackles a game, isn't he? Which is phenomenal for a guy playing as an outside midfielder. So, Lindsay for me.
What about, Tim, would you start Trainer or James Leake if he stays in the team? If you had to put a rookie defender on
you don't
field?
You don't score Supercoach points in the VFL, so Luke Trainer, because I don't think James Leake will keep his spot this week.
Actually, we're probably going to... Well, most of us will have like a Matt Roberts in defence. I suppose Perriman's going, but we'll probably be putting all these rookie defenders on and just, hopefully someone does something.
Yeah, both are going to drop out of my best 18, so irrelevant, really.
Yeah, that's it. I don't think Leake will be around this week. No. Sorry to tell you.
Poor James.
Isaac Kako or Connor Stone if he keeps his spot?
Essendon's not going to do well against anyone, let alone Port Adelaide. If you can loop Kako with somebody on the bye, then loop Kako. But otherwise, I think I'd put him on ahead of... No, I'd go Stone. I don't know. I think Stone.
Yep, fair question. And last one, Tim, do you think Lucas Campriali will keep his spot, and would you put him on or Elijah Hewitt?
I think Lucas Campiale will keep his spot. They seem to really like him. So, and they no reason to, like, as bad as Carlton has been so far this season. Like, he hasn't been largely the reason for it. Like, he's looked pretty at home on that wing. So, I don't know. They're both probably going to score about 50, aren't they? Like, I wouldn't, if you can loop him, great. I don't know. Maybe Hewitt's got slightly more ceiling. Like, he might be more likely to hit sort of a 60 or a 70. I'd probably play him over Campiale if I had the choice.
The other one quickly you could throw into that conversation maybe would be Jack Henderson if we're bringing him in this week, which I probably will be.
I'd play him.
Yeah, if he's not the sub, then whack him on.
I don't think he's going to be sub. They seem to like him.
All right, into the questions. So keep an eye out for the tweet early in the week and reply to that, and we'll get to as many as we can in the next 20, 25 minutes or so. A couple to kick us off. Verdict, Matt asking for a verdict, keep or hold Will Day, and Tim has asked a similar question. What do we do with Day? Gone to Callahan at the moment, but worried he will turn his form around. He's also thrown in a little asking Patch if Essendon will be good again at any time in the future.
No, they won't.
That's an easy one to answer.
No, they won't. Will Day's a slightly more difficult question.
Will you admit that they're rebuilding? Because no one else will. Brad Scott won't. Zach Merritt won't.
We've been rebuilding for 20 years.
Yes, I think both our clubs have. So.
We're not very good at securing permits or building materials. Or anyway, that's another 35-minute discussion.
Yes.
Will Day,
longer than that.
I'd be trading Will Day. I don't know. We know that the early run was hard, but I think Finn Callahan has proven that he's, looking the goods. Will Day, I'm not as sure about whether or not you'd be trading Day to Callahan or trying to trade Day up to like a Connor Rosie or a Jordan Dawson.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather do that. But yeah, I'd be moving Will Day on.
What are you thinking, Tim? You're a Will Day owner?
I'm holding, but like only because I've got other things that I'm dealing with this week. Like I can totally understand why people are going to jump off. So we got Toby Bedford more than likely this week, then a bye, then potentially Willem Drew the week after that. So you're looking at 2 tags either side of a bye. I think round 7 and round 8 look more attractive when he's got the Eagles and Richmond. So you'd hope if you persisted that he could sort of start to turn the form around then. But that's a long time to be holding, and you're probably giving up hundreds of points to people that go to Dawson and Rosie types. So that's where I'd be looking to go. Like I'm just not as good as Finn Callahan has been in the first couple of games. Like I'm not sold on the fact that he's going to be anywhere near the top 8 mids this year. I think he's probably going to average sort of somewhere in that 100, 105 range. So that puts him in that next bracket and means that at some stage you're going to have to upgrade him. If you started him, awesome. And I think you've done really well, but I wouldn't be burning a trade to get him in now to then ship him out at some point to probably a Dawson or Rosie type. I would rather find that 100K and get to someone like Jordan Dawson that is a genuine top 8 contender.
And if you can get him now, before he's 620K.
Yes, well, that's the other part. Rosie's about to go up by 20 or 30K. Dawson maybe not as much, but he's going to go up by 15 or 20K again this week. So. And
we also just don't have enough data on what Callahan looks like with Tom Green in the side as well, how that impacts his scoring long term. I don't know. I'm too many question marks for me.
I think Callahan's going to get tagged soon as well. So I know Tom Green's been the number 1 tag target at GWS, but Callahan is the one that is going to hurt you, like out of those two. And teams don't really tag the accumulator all that often, don't they? Like if Tom Green has 35, he might hurt you, but if Finn Callahan has 25, he can really hurt you. So I think we're going to see teams start to go to him, and I think they've got St Kilda in a couple of weeks. So I would not be surprised if Marcus Windhager sided up to Finn Callahan, and that might be the end of his cash generation there and then if Windhager shuts him down.
I'm stealing this from another podcast, made the point that the Saints might remember that Finn just knocked back their $100 million offer and say hello to Marcus Windhager.
Go and have Marcus Windhager,
There's a question here from Alex which touches on this about just should we prioritise cash gen, make 3 rookie corrections, or you're going for points on field like Callahan, Bailey, Dale type. So I think that's where it lands for me. Like, you're talking about, maybe you would trade Will Day if you had, 7, 8, 10 trades for the week. But if you've only got 3, and we're certainly advocating, totally fine to use a trade boost this week, I think the priority is to make sure you've got those rookies who are going to make all the money.
Yep.
And then if you've already got, Nathan O'Driscoll, you've already got Levi, you've already got, Jack Henderson on the bench or Xavier Lindsay, and then, you sort of might have a spare one. Maybe that's, when you look at moving on someone like Will Day.
Yeah, I think absolutely rookies need to be the focus this week, and the Phantom's Lair went through, in details which rookies are the priority and which rookies you can probably leave. We won't recap that here too much, but I think if you need to use 3 trades to fix your rookies, you use that and you leave Max Gawn or Will Day or whoever it is that's kind of underperforming a little bit.
Yeah. Well, this is where I'm really because my third trade on the weekend sort of got thrown up in the air because I was going to Bailey Smith because I cried through that Geelong game in round one after I took him out about 30 minutes before the bounce. So I thought, no, I'll get on the Bailey Smith train and bring him in, and then had to pivot. And because I had so much cash, I didn't really look at the rookies all that much, and I just went to Sam De Koning, who was okay, but is probably going to play fullback soon. And I fully think I'm going to regret that move. But if I'd gone to Xavier Lindsay, I might have had a bit more flexibility this week because the rest of my rookies are about the only part of my side that looks okay at the moment. So I'm frustrated I didn't go down that path, but I think Al's right. Like if you've got all those Lindsay and all the good cash generators, great. But if not, you've got to fix that up this week. Otherwise, you're just going to be left behind, and teams are going to be upgrading 2 weeks before you do.
Yep. So speaking of rookies, quite a few questions about Connor O'Sullivan down back. So, sort of jumped out of the box a bit as pardon me, as a defensive rookie. That obviously is an area that we've struggled with. But, summing it up, basically this question, is Connor O'Sullivan a must-have? He's worried that defenders always score well against St Kilda. He's sort of got a good role when Tom Stewart went off injured, and now Stewart might even play this week. Colin Jasny might be back in a week or two as well. Yeah, where do we sit on Connor O'Sullivan? Do we need to bring him in this week? He's got, a big negative 53 break even.
Does it just depend, Patch, like how deep your defence is? So a lot of coaches are already going 4 deep. If you call Joel Fraser a premium, like maybe having Fraser at D4, like I know when I traded in Sam De Koning last round, he was D5. So I've got Riley Bice as well, who's on the bye this week, but looks like he's going to become a staple of the Sydney back line. So I think if you're that deep already, he's not necessarily a must-have. No. Like, he's a nice sort of luxury rookie to get in, but you're probably going sort of a Zach Reid or Luke Traynor sideways to O'Sullivan to potentially get him in, unless you're trading like Jackson Pryor if you started him. So is he worth a sideways trade? Like, I don't know. You've got to remember that a couple of weeks ago against Freo, he scored 48. Yeah. So he was incredible in that second half against St Kilda. Really liked what I saw and thought he was deserving of the Rising Star, even though Diwa from the Eagles made a pretty strong case. But I don't think he's a must-have, but I'd be happy getting him in. I don't think he'll be in my 3 trades this week, but only because of how deep my defence already is.
Yeah, agreed. If you need a defensive rookie, then he's, you could argue going to Bice this week's a better move, and just because he'll be the one we do want, but he'll be okay, I guess.
It's just. And it's also the fact, sorry, Al, we've got Kitty Coleman not too far away at Brisbane and Callum Mills not too far away at Sydney. So you got to factor in that these guys are only a couple of weeks away and we're going to want them. So there's only so many defenders you can fit into your team too. Yeah. So you're going to fit Bailey Dale and Connor O'Sullivan and Riley Bice in over the next couple of weeks with these other guys on the horizon.
We've also just had news as we've been recording that Sardell Hawley will debut as well. So there's another one to keep an eye on a few weeks down the track. So
rate that.
Yeah, breaking news that's hours old by the time you hear this. So, looking ahead, I'd rather Bice and possibly Al Hawley, depending on if he's the sub or how that rolls out. So I'm passing.
I think Bice is the one that I'll be wanting to bring. I know you could bring him in this week, even though Sydney's on the bye. He looks so good last weekend, but sensible players just to wait, make sure he's, doesn't...
but I did
fall off his bike
and he scored 80. So
he won't be scoring anything this week.
I'm just petrified of leaving a Geelong rookie out though, because I did the same on the logic of Ollie Dempsey last year and he won the Rising Star. So that works out tremendously for me.
Yeah. I think Toby Travalia as well might be playing.
Well, here's another one that's been flagged. So there's a few around. So I don't think we have to jump on every defensive rookie that pops up, especially because I wouldn't be trading a Perryman down to O'Sullivan, for example, and having to field an extra rookie in defence.
No.
You only want, sort of going back to what Abdul was talking about, you only want probably one at the most on field. So to me, that's probably Paton to Bice next week, and then if we get a Travalia or a Hawley in another 2 or 3 weeks, that'd be perfect. Just cash in a big make 40 grand or something off Zach Reid and cash him in.
Yep.
And just be rotating those guys rather than bringing in extra.
I can't believe I got sucked into Zach Reid again.
Reese has asked, how many rookies should we have on field in defence? Well, we've sort of just answered that, really. I mean, I think we only want one. Yeah.
Yep.
Quick one, Scud asking, worth trading Will Ashcroft to fill Finn Callahan? So Will's been, not quite as good as we thought, maybe, but I mean, he hasn't been hopeless. 73 and 104 in his 2 games. They're basically the same price. Is it worth using a trade?
Depends on the rest of your priorities. I again would be prioritising rookies. Maybe, sure. We've spoken about Callahan a bit as well. I'm not as hot on him and would rather you do some DPPs and get like a Fraser in or a Bailey Smith if you don't have him, or Yeah, I don't know.
I wouldn't do it.
No, I wouldn't either. I don't
No.
think. I mean, it's just that classic thing, in round 17 when we're running out of trades, you think, why did I swap Ashcroft to Callahan? And they ended up averaging basically the same.
Yeah.
So, there's an obvious allure there when you look at Callahan's break-even this week compared to Ashcroft. But realistically, you think over the season, Callahan might average 5 points more a game. Like, is that really worth a trade? I don't think so.
Yeah, trades are pretty valuable, especially once they start getting a bit low. It seems we've got plenty now, but the number goes down pretty quickly. Question from Inside Mids. Do we go Perryman up to a Whitfield type or sideways to a Callahan type via some DPP? Or I suppose you could look at maybe a Fraser if you just want to get a defender in. But, yeah, if we're trading out Harry Perryman, as I certainly am, is the idea – I think what I want to do is get in a defender that's just a premium that I can lock in and not have to worry about. I don't want to be dealing with another mid-pricer or a rookie. Is that what you're thinking?
I'm bringing in one of the Whitfields or Sinclairs or one of those types, and I'm bringing Fraser in. I've got some cash sitting there. But I think if I was in that position where I can only get one of them, I'd be trying to go up and get one of the bigger guys. Like Jack Sinclair, I think is great this week, not just because he's playing Richmond and could score 278 points in the first half. I think that's how I'd do it.
No, I agree. I think that especially that top echelon of defenders now, like they're so far ahead of like they're scoring as well as the premier midfielders. Like you're talking Whitfield, Zorko. Sinclair looks like he's going to be in that mix again.
Jordan Clark's had a great start.
Jordan Clark's had a good start. Sheasel obviously hasn't quite been there, but Bailey Dale's been phenomenal as well, and you can get him for $520K at the moment before. I think he's projected to go up about $40K, so any of those look like really good options. I'd be pretty happy picking any of those 5 or 6 from
to pick one. It's crazy at the start of the year. I just couldn't find anybody that I like to put at D2 besides Sheasel, and now, there's about half a dozen that would have all been great picks.
Lockie Whitfield, because somehow teams kick about 15 points every week against GWS, and he runs faster than anyone to get them. So I think that's where I'd be going. Bailey Dale's a great pick too, although I think Matt Cottrell probably sits on him this week.
Yeah, that just makes me a little bit nervous that he might get some tags, but
he will.
He's the more value
Cottrell's
pick.
tagged. I don't think he's the best tagger necessarily in the Carlton. He's far from it, but he has done defensive jobs already for Carlton, so I think that will happen.
Another question on rookies, Patch. If you have a dead rookie sitting on the bench like I do, like an Angus Hasty, would you prioritise getting rid of him, or a rookie who's maybe playing but just not scoring very many points like a Finn O'Sullivan type?
Yeah, you got to get rid of the deadwood. You just need as many players playing and scoring points and generating cash as you can. And if that means you keep Finn O'Sullivan, then keep Finn O'Sullivan. Just make sure you get rid of the dead rookies. I'm looking at maybe moving on Bo Allen if he's not named this week. So that's how I'd be looking at it.
And I mean, you mentioned Finn O'Sullivan, so I was originally thinking of trading him and keeping Elijah Sardis, who looked a little bit more promising last weekend, but now with the news he's out, would you, Tim, trade him first or keep him and thinking after a couple of weeks he comes back in, he actually has a decent role, might score some points, make us some money, but it's a bit of a wait, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I can understand why people are moving them on because you're talking 190K rookies. Like, you can do a fair bit with that cash. Like, if you even the 40K that you make from trading Sardis to Lindsay this week might enable you to, I don't know, grab a Jordan Dawson type instead of settling for Finn Callahan, who I think will be fine. But like we said, I don't think it'll be sort of that top 8 contender that a Jordan Dawson would. So I'm trying to hold both O'Sullivan and Sardis. Sardis because I think he's in Essendon's best team now. Hopefully his time on ground is going to improve when he comes back, and he's got a break even in the negative 20s, I think. So we're going to get some cash out of him when he does come back. Finn O'Sullivan, I get that he's probably going to be a slow burn, but at some point, he's a number 2 draft pick. He's going to score that 80 or 90 that we need to start some quick cash generation at some point. Whether it's as soon as we hoped, I don't know. But I think long-term people that hold him and have a bit of patience are going to be rewarded.
Yeah, I probably have to choose one, unfortunately. So, it might be Sardis going just because, the cash isn't going to be coming in for at least a few weeks.
There's also the same point while Sardis is out, I know they've got to buy in one of them, but let's say Essendon beats Port Adelaide, which won't happen, Patch. But let's say it happens.
I can dream
that they stick with the team and he doesn't get back in. And he's got to play.
Or he's the Sarbos.
He's got to play VFL for a while.
Parrish could be back after the bye as well.
Well, that's another point too. So you probably trade Sardis.
Yep, I'm trading him.
Well, I can probably take this one from Flaggers. What do we do with JHF? Of course, everyone should have listened to me, including myself, and not started him, which I was going to do all summer, and then I caved and put him into my team, and obviously scoring 60-odd points against Richmond was not what we thought was going to happen, but I don't think we can get rid of him. You just have to stick him there. I still think he'll be one of the top forwards, over the course of the year. Not totally wrapped with this new idea of playing Willie Rioli at centre bounces and Horne Francis out of the goal square, but I think in the long run he'll still be okay. So, not worth the trade, certainly when we have all these other things going on this week.
Yeah, if he's your biggest problem, then we'll start planning what you're spending that 50K on.
And we pretty much all have him, don't we? So we're all in the same boat.
And I've seen people trading him to Rankin. Like, as good as Rankin's been, I wouldn't be desperate enough to make that move either. I think Jason-Horne Francis is going to be on the angry pills every week like he was against Richmond, which made no sense because they were about 90 points up at quarter time, but he just has those weeks, doesn't he, where he just has brain explosions and gives away about 15 free kicks, and his score suffered because of that. But ultimately, he's going to be a top 6 forward.
I'll throw this one to you, Tim. Someone asking, will Track be gaining DPP forward status? So we do have some early numbers on...
We have this question every year, don't we?
Yes, everyone, exactly. His name always comes up, and we see him playing full forward and think, here we go, Track the forward in Supercoach. But is it going to happen? Can we make a prediction at this stage?
Well, he's close. I think he's in the about 30% now. So
he's like 27, I think.
20, so he's high 20s. So he needs to play a fair bit forward in the next couple of weeks. So the first batch of DPP changes last year took place after that first allotment of buys, which was after round 6. This year they're a week earlier, so they're after round 5 going into round 6. So we've only got a couple of weeks now for players to get up to that 35% threshold. So you're talking probably 50% forward minimum in the next couple of weeks for Christian Petrarca to get there. So I think it's more unlikely than likely. But the exciting ones for us, Zach Merritt is...
Zach Merritt?
Potentially
Zach Merritt forward?
Ooh. He's 31% at the moment, which those that have read our sort of full DPP wrap-up will know. And Chad Warner is sitting at close to 40% forward. Ooh. So if, I almost said John Longmire, if Dean Cox can play him a little bit more forward in the next couple of weeks, we might get Chad Warner as our F1 going into round 6,
and
which would be massive.
Some rookies too are going to be really handy. Like if a Jack Henderson or a Levi Ashcroft looks like you'll get
both of those forward. Well, Jack Henderson's a lock because he's about 99.5% forward or something. Like he's right up there, and Levi Ashcroft's in the 60s. So you think both of those get it, which means that as of round 6, we're going to be able to take Isaac Kako and Sam Davison and these guys off field and field some more reliable rookies up forward. And at the same time, I think a lot of us are in a difficult position where we're wanting to field a lot of these midfield rookies that are mid-only. Being able to play Finn O'Sullivan as a defender, Levi Ashcroft and Jack Henderson as forwards opens up 2 or 3 spots to start getting the big guns into your midfield as well.
Yeah, okay, yeah. And Nick Dacos, there we go. That could all work out beautifully. But Finn O'Sullivan as a defender, I like the sound of that. That could also be something to keep in mind. Although now it seems like we have rookie defenders coming from everywhere. We'll finish up with one last question. I'll throw it to you, Patch, but I know Tim will probably want to have a say on this as well from more. I don't really want to keep short.
I don't either.
But looking at him as a placeholder, maybe to get Tom Stewart in after his price comes down in a few weeks' time, is it a fair hold? What do we do with Jayden Short?
Don't start him. You shouldn't have started him. I told you it wasn't worth the mental anguish, and here we are.
I was just blinded by your eyes, Patch. Didn't hear the advice.
I don't know what to tell you. You can't go back in time. You've got him in your side. I would be moving him on to a Fraser if you don't have Joel Fraser. If you've got the cash to go up to someone, do it. I would, again, it's not worth the mental energy to hold him. I'd get rid of him, but you could, probably lower on the priority list than getting the rookies fixed.
It puts a strain on my friendship with Al because, every Richmond game, I just flood the Supercoach group chat with how much I dislike Jayden Short. And
you keep picking him.
When he didn't take kick-ins and Ben Miller, 197 centimetre defender, started taking kick-ins. So we were promised this short, keep the footy game style by Adam Uze, and now we've got Ben Miller kicking at 65 metres instead, like Luke Ryan style kick-outs. It is just the polar opposite of, maybe he was just playing Ducks and Drakes in pre-season or something, but I don't think there's any bigger pre-season tease, unfortunately, than Jayden Short. He's proven that year in, year out, and I keep going there every single year and tormenting myself. I reckon I'll probably hold him for a couple more weeks and then go to a Mills or a Coleman or someone. I'm just going to have to put up with it for a few more weeks until I have these really good get-out options in a few weeks' time.
And we're going to have to put up with you complaining about it until then.
Oh, I would never do that, Patch.
No, of course not.
Richmond does have St Kilda this week who do give up points to defenders, so there's a chance there he might get his break-even of 94. Hopefully he doesn't lose too much money for you at least.
Not going to happen.
Quick question has come into the run sheet here. I didn't see this earlier, but Dan Batten has jumped in and asked, tell me whether to trade Gawn, JHF, or neither. Patch?
Neither.
Right, answer. Good.
Neither. Go away, Dan.
Okay, thank you, everybody. So many questions. A huge show, huge week in Supercoach. Good luck with all your trades. We'll be back at 6:30 on Thursday with a live Teams show. So we'll see all the ins and outs and talk through all the ramifications and some captain tips then. But until then, happy trading. Thank you, Patch.
Thank you, Al.
Tim?
Al, good to be back.
Great to have you. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk soon.